45. Brown, 45. Hot, 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 hot.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least three households, one studio, American Football Australia head office, NFL Australia head office. Week 9 is pretty much done and dusted in the books. It's been an enormous week. Joining us, as always, in his western wing of his palace, at Danny Webb, AGSOU. Before I do say hello to you, mate, we've got to shout out Capture the Flag yesterday. You and I went down there. We were a commentary duo. It was an incredible day. Shout out to Brad Howard and Liam Price for putting the day together, mate. How was the day in your eyes?
Mate, it was a ripper day. Perfect weather. Copped a little bit too much sun, if you ask me, being down there on the field as a little sideline reporter. But what a great day that they've organised, obviously helping the game of flag football grow immensely. This was a casual event that they've just organised themselves. It wasn't a American Football Association event by any means, despite them being down there and being represented. Incredible turnout to have 20 countries represented, people from all over, multiple teams. It was just a great day and a great event and such good vibes from everyone down there.
Oh, it was huge, especially to finish. We had the Kuala Lumpur team, I'm pretty sure. They were KL, they were. In the final, it was incredible to watch. So, yeah, shout out to them and big things on the way for flag football. We do have to mention we've got a third joining us. He's joining us from not your basement. This looks like a work thing. I'm presuming now you're going to be joining us on a bit more regular basis, Charlie.
Provided this goes well today, I think. If it goes okay today, then I'll come back again. Yeah,
I'm actually thinking that you've finally given in to me, pestering you because the Bills are on the rise. When the Bills are struggling, you're like, nah, mate, I just don't have time. Now you got all the time in the world.
Yeah. Against the Ravens and the Texans, I was traveling, but I'm back now, definitely. And, very happy to be back. Thank you for having me, guys, and happy to share my thoughts on all the games and way too many thoughts on the Bills games.
Yeah, and that's the thing now. You're going to have to, because you're a regular contributor, it can't be 25 minutes on the Bills. You've got to be able to cross everything.
Get that down to about 22 to free up that 3 minutes for someone else.
Are you going to take your own advice, TMac? Because generally this is a Packers podcast and every now and then we get some stuff in about other games.
Yeah. Today it's not the Packers podcast. Don't stress about that. It wasn't the best day for me. I reckon there's nearly a hole in my TV from where I threw the remote in the first half. But
were you a bit more no pack no?
Nah, I'm still full pack. No, don't stress. We'll be right. There's plenty of... it was fucking frustrating, but we'll get to that. We're going to start with Thursday night's game. And I don't know if it's a controversial, but a hot take that CJ Stroud struggling a little bit as the Jets. They get a much-needed win. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams finally connecting for a touchdown. Huge win for them. They need it. But Danny boy, we spoke about this yesterday, and mate, I think CJ's coming into that second-year blues a little bit at the moment.
I think that's too early to say. I think it's too early to say that he's going into that. Yes, he has been struggling, but he's doing it without Diggs and without Nico Collins. So since Collins went down is really when CJ Stroud's decline started. So I don't think we can put it all on CJ Stroud. He just doesn't have as much confidence without these receivers. And that's evident. It's evident on the field. And it's actually making him a less exciting watch, unfortunately, for the Texans out there. But yeah, I got called out for it yesterday. So just a quick shout out to Wade. Yes, the Jets got a W. But, mate, you had to fire your head coach, sign a star receiver, and then get 2 more L's before actually getting it done. But congrats, mate. You got your win.
Devontae Adams, I did love that he called you out straight away because that was your Any Given Sunday pick of the week last week, and it went down in classic form, which was awesome. But, yeah, Devontae Adams just put on a post. I don't know if you saw it, Charlie. He said that even Rome wasn't built in one day. So I feel like he's a little bit happier the way things are going.
Yeah, but did they have to destroy most of Rome before they got it rebuilt again?
Like, was Caesar a part of Rome? Did they cut his head off? Yeah,
they had to sack the emperor. I don't know. I watched all of this game, and it was a tough watch. I think for the first half, it was like, when you watch those games with teams with a losing record, and And obviously it was meant to be good when they booked it for Thursday night, but you think surely the NFL should have flexed this out. It really felt like two teams that shouldn't have been in prime time. And I agree with Stroud. I think everyone expected him to continue rising this season, but every rookie that has a great breakout year regresses in some way. And so I think that is mixed in with no receivers to go to. But I still good on the Jets. And people are trying to say, oh, yeah, Jets are back, but it was a pretty uninspiring win, and there were some terrible mistakes. I feel sorry for, was it Malachi Corley, the wide receiver, who had his touchdown overruled because he dropped the ball celebrating before he crossed the plane, and you just
Can you feel sorry for him? No, you don't fucking drop the ball.
Yeah, I more feel sorry for him just because that's all he's going to be known for the rest of the year now. Like, the chance of him getting another touchdown this year is pretty slim. And
he's burned his bridge.
He's going to be stained by that. My hot take out of this game is less about Nico Collins and more about Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he found some targets. Yes, they managed to get some touchdowns and get over, a pretty lackluster, ordinary Texans outfit the other night. I still reckon he's washed. I still reckon he's not leading them on the field. And there's, he's got Adams, he's got Lazard. He gets along great with them. Wilson is, I think, as good as any other receiver in the league. His catch for a touchdown was an absolute freak show that made OBJ's, look almost pedestrian by comparison. But Rodgers doesn't have the leadership and the personality to pull that team together. They can get rid of Salah. They can get rid of offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. He's not going to do it. They might have had a win, but I still don't reckon he's going to do it. He can't move, and I don't reckon anyone there is playing for Aaron Rodgers.
Except for Adams.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe, but even still, even Adams, I think, is a bit like, it's already harder than I expected.
Yeah, they did think it. And I think most people did think that he would come in and it would just be, and it should be, you go through the night, like we said, Wilson would be, Oregon, I've got him top 4 off the top of my head.
Easy.
Wide receivers in the league, comfortably,
yeah,
and could be top 1 if he was, getting the targets and the balls that he should be. But yeah, I don't know. It definitely hasn't been as easy as what they were hoping. And shit, we said it last week, Danny. They probably need to win out if there any chance of actually getting anywhere near you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
The Bills, I mean, not your Eagles.
It's. Well, I think they do just about statistically have to do that. They're lucky that the Dolphins aren't, we'll get to them in a minute. They looked a bit better today, but they're not putting up a fight, for the division. But I still think, everyone just desperately wants the Jets to turn out to be a positive story. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
This could well be the high watermark of the season for the Jets.
Yeah. Last bit of hot take, Danny boy, on this one before we move on to the next game.
I just think it's, and I said this off air, it's similar to any other sport where they just try and flood a team full of superstars. It doesn't necessarily always work out. And I'm kind of getting that feeling now with the Jets. Yes, they won, but it wasn't necessarily convincing. Rodgers the players don't really seem to be doing what Rodgers wants, you know what I mean? So the way that he's looking at them and they're missing targets and all that, Rodgers is blaming everyone else but him. And I think it's probably a bit about time he has a little look internal.
Ooh. All right, Wade, you probably should sell that Super Bowl ticket that he bought after last week's win after we've just rinsed him. But like you said, the AFC East, the Bills are getting further and further away. I think you're 3 or 4 games clear now, which is enormous. You'd be paying $1.01 to win. And it only got further today when you guys, with a 61-yard field goal from Tyler Bass to win it for the Bills, with about 3 or 4 seconds left. Charlie, how are you? Sit back, Danny boy. Charlie's about to let loose.
Well, this was actually, look, it was a better game. It was closer than everyone was expecting. And, I think, if you're a Finns fan, after a really grim start to the season, you'd be a lot happier about the team. Tua was awesome. He played such a good game, 25 from 28 attempts for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did a really good job, and I think he did the best, pretty much the best he could on the day. Tyreek Hill had his best ever game against the Bills. He traditionally does very poorly against the Bills, but he had 4 or 5 for 80 yards. Waddle was quiet, but made a few big plays, got a touchdown late, and a few big chunk plays to keep them in it. And they ran the ball well. Archan, 12 carries for 63 and a touchdown. He was also their second best receiver with 8, I think, receptions for 58 and a touchdown. On the other side, Josh Allen, he wasn't Superman. He had a pretty ordinary first half, but came good in the second half when they needed and made some big plays, 25 of 39 for 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think that, like, from a gameplay point of view, I was surprised that the Bills didn't control the line of scrimmage the way that people would expect them to. Their O-line is one of the most dominant ones for the season. But whilst they got the run game going, they did have some trouble, and the Finns were quite competitive. But the big story was the 61-yard field goal by Tyler Bass. For those not following the Bills kicker narrative of the last year or so,
we
Tyler
spoke
Bass,
about it pre-season, didn't we? That he's been rinsed a fair bit about his kicking.
Absolutely. And some of that comes from when you miss a gettable field goal against the Chiefs that would have taken it into overtime, and instead, like, missed wide right by a long way. That is the last memory of people had of Tyler Bass from last year. Then against the Texans, he missed some must-have kicks that would have possibly kept us in that game or possibly had us win against the Texans. The Bills even brought in another kicker to try out and competed for the job. And genuinely, Sean McDermott, the coach, has talked about it, saying genuinely had a competition, and T-Bass managed to, win the competition at training. So he has fought for his position. The fans have been very supportive, but he kicks the 61-yard field goal. It's not just the longest field goal of his career. It's the longest ever field goal for the Bills, like in the entire history of the team. And I think he's the 9th kicker in NFL history to kick over 60 yards to win a match. So in one kick, and admittedly he kicked well all day and didn't miss any others, which helped. But in one kick, it really turned it around, and everyone is like now back on the T-Bass train. He was in tears when he got given the game ball in the rooms afterwards. And it's, of all the positions that you wouldn't want, struggling kicker, I think, is probably the worst position to have in football. Mentally, what you have to do just to do that job is so lonely, and everyone knows you failed, and it's really obvious. It's like when you fail, it's on you. I think he's done really well to actually be able to just focus and get it done in that moment, given everything else he's done, been through this season. So, yeah, not the best Bills win for the season, but as you said, we're still pushing ahead in the division and feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I actually think that Miami, like you said, they should get a lot of confidence from this game. I don't know if their season's completely over. I know they're like 2-5 now or something like that, but the AFC has shown that there's a big gap from the top to the, even the middle. And I think if they can get on a bit of a run, you never know. And probably their biggest hurdle is keeping Tua healthy. If he can actually stay upright and, protect his noggin, he'll be. I reckon the Finns will start to pick it up from here, and we'll see whether they just cause problems for other teams or, be able to produce themselves and possibly get further. But, Danny boy, we're moving on to the AFC North. We've spoken about the Bills enough. They had a great win. AFC North is heating up after both the Bengals and the Ravens put up 41 in pretty big wins.
Yeah, it was 2 wins that we probably were expecting, though, weren't we? So the Bengals took down Las Vegas and Baltimore took down Denver. Both were obviously impressive wins, and it is going to make the division a lot more spicy now because the Bengals are only 2 games behind. So if they can actually start getting their stuff together, because when they started this season, we were almost down and out on the Bengals. Like, they weren't necessarily looking like they were going to make any dent in the division. So it's going to turn out to be a much more exciting division than we thought.
Well, they were 1-4, 1-3, and they've gone 3-1 since then. So they've definitely turned it around. And I actually heard, Charlie, that Joey B, who threw 5 touchdowns, was still not happy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually seen him that happy. Like, he's always too cool about when he's happy. But I mean, from where they started this season, he might not be happy, but he should be pretty wrapped at the same time.
Yeah.
And the way, particularly his form coming off missing most of last year with injury and most of the preseason as well, he's played into form pretty well, and he's still, he's a terrifying prospect if you're up against him.
Speaking of terrifying, Lamar, who's had a perfect passer rating for the fourth time in his career, is quite terrifying.
Yeah, he's the first player to do it. He's just surpassed Brady, Manning, Warner, and Roethlisberger, who were sitting on 3, and he's done it 4
Some pretty decent
times.
names.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of them could play. But the other record breaker on that team, I think, is more scary than Lamar. And to sound like a jaded pundit, I'll say I'll believe Lamar when I see him really play well in the playoffs. Like he struggles in the playoffs in those big pressure moments, and he's great when they're leading. And I'm not sure he's great when they're trailing. The more terrifying prospect is Derrick Henry, who ran for 106 yards and chalked up his 100th and 101st career rushing touchdowns. He's already hit 1,000 yards for the season, and he is only the 3rd player in history to have 10 rushing touchdowns in 7 consecutive seasons. So he isn't just terrifying, he's consistently terrifying. Like he is at such a level, and I really do think he is what makes the Ravens terrifying, and I think allows Lamar to do what he's doing. You have a look at a lot of the teams that won well today, and we'll probably chat about the Lions a bit later and the Bills, and also the Bengals. But the teams that are doing well, you're seeing they're getting 8, 9 people catching passes from the QBs, and that's what's really difficult. I think the Ravens had 9 people catch passes today, and when you've got that plus Derrick Henry, that's a terrifying proposition.
You say, sorry, Danny, I'm throwing to you, so don't stress. But you say that he struggles in playoffs and things like that. But, Danny, surely it's going to be a lot easier in the playoffs now against Mahomes and such when he can turn around and go, I got a 130-kilo fucking running back just to hand the ball to.
Yeah, so anytime you're struggling, put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands. And that's kind of how I expected the season to go, but exactly what Charlie's saying. He's not only got that, but then he's also got all the wide receivers that he can possibly hit to, and tight ends, and everyone else, everyone under the sun who's willing to catch a ball, he's hitting them too. Lamar is throwing the ball, to me, the best that he ever has. And then you've got the best running back that's currently playing on your team. Like, that is a scary combination. That is an elite offense. And the defense is still getting it done as well. Like, let's not disregard that. The defense is still in there fighting every single game. But back on Derrick Henry, our pick last week in our episode where we picked him for MVP at $81 odds, people would have told us that we were crazy because it was a running back. Already drops $36.
So if you were listening last week and got on, fucking look at you go. So just saying that he's getting around all his wide receivers. He only had 19 passes today.
Yeah.
19 good ones.
How you hit 9 receivers with 19 passes? That's impressive in itself.
Well, it looks like I was just looking there. There's only 1 or 2 that actually got over. So Zay Flowers had 5 receptions. Then the most was Hill and Bateman had 3, and everyone else had 1.
Yeah.
But like, what a good way to confuse defenses, though. So yes, he only threw the ball 19 times, but exactly what you're saying. If you're hitting that many receivers, like, they're never going to know who to cover. Then they're like, as soon as they double someone, like let's say they double Zay Flowers because he got 5 receptions, got the most receptions. As soon as you start doing that, well, he's just going to find someone else.
Yeah.
And he's got that ability. His ability at the moment to read defenses and pick them apart is next level.
Yeah, he's definitely playing the best he ever has. But you've seen that with a bunch of teams. When the Bills didn't have Amari Cooper today, and that meant it was easier to mark all the receivers because there wasn't that extra wide receiver one. You look at the struggle that the Texans were having. They're missing 2 top receivers. It's way too easy to double team the next best receiver. It's when you've got that multi-headed monster coming at you that it's very hard to do, very hard to shut down. He's definitely playing the best football of his career. As I said, against the better teams and against the trickier defenses, like if they come up against teams like the Bengals or the Chiefs that have really sophisticated defenses in the playoffs, I'm yet to see him overcome them.
But just jumping back quickly to today, because you said he only had 16 completions. Some of the ones where you're like certain wide receivers only have one, they were getting plus 25 yards on those single catches. So he's not only finding, like, whether that's yards after catch or it's just finding them deep downfield. That is some elite yardage off those single receptions.
Yeah, it was only 16 completions for 280 yards. So, yeah, it's nearly 20 yards a play, really.
That's a lot. But yeah, Charlie, it'll be interesting to see as the season ramps up and we get towards the playoffs what he's actually going to do. To me, he seems the most level-headed and confident at this point in the season. So, and he's got Derrick Henry right behind him, so he doesn't have to do it all himself. So yeah, I reckon.
Don't get me wrong; they are a very scary proposition. Like it's the Chiefs and them are probably in that top tier of the AFC teams you don't want to play. I think the Bills are getting there. I think they're playing into that. I think they've got what they need, but they're not playing at that level yet. But yeah, you want to get as far as you can without having to encounter the Ravens.
It'll be interesting to see, and it's in 2 weeks. The Ravens and the Steelers. I want to see how they go against the number one rushing defense. See if that, because Danny, you said last week, anytime that the big dogs under 90 yards, they lose. So that'll be an interesting one. Also hot. First time since 1996, Washington are 7-2. So, Charlie, you can take a break this time, but Danny boy, your Eagles are heating up. They are 4 wins in a row, and they are right on the tail of that hot Washington team, mate.
Yeah, so just like the Bills were actually starting to play into form, and I think that all came once Vic Fangio finally sorted out this defense and got them moving. I was ready to almost switch off the game today at halftime because the Eagles shut out the Jags. I was like, look at this, playing perfect. Offense is doing enough, getting it done. Saquon Barkley, machine as well. Like he's going to be up there.
Backwards, doesn't matter.
I've got a question for you about that in a sec. We'll just let me rant first. Let me rant.
Oh, right, sorry.
Thought they were going to get it done, and then a couple of costly mistakes, and then the Jags ended up coming quite back. Sirianni kept on pushing the envelope when he probably didn't really need to. He went for 3, I think, 2-point conversions, missed them all. Missed on 2 fourth downs when he was in field goal range. And then finally, when the game was coming down to it with 2 minutes left, he was like, nah, put Elliott in for a 57-yard field goal. And then he missed it. So it actually gave the Jags a chance. And it went all the way down to that last play, and Nakobe Dean picked off Lawrence in the end zone. And like that saved the game for Philly. So for me being so confident after the first half, I was like, have we just played ourselves out of form? But yeah, lucky enough to get the job done. But in this game, I need an honest opinion. Out of the 2 incredible moments, what was better? Saquon Barkley jumping backwards hurdle over a defender, or Smith's one-handed touchdown grab over his head, just like almost imitating Garrett Wilson?
Whose opinion do you want?
Both.
Go, Charlie. You can go first.
I don't know. I thought I was a bit more excited by Saquon Barkley. It was just so. It was like he's a freak. He is just a genuine freak show. There's just something about him and the way that he moves that you always have to play it back and go like, how did he actually do it? And it was just so unconventional. I mean, I find him so exciting to the point that I really hate him, and I hate that the Eagles have him. It feels really unfair that the Eagles have him.
And Danny loves it.
Can I just go back to Sirianni for a sec?
Do I get a vote?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, have a vote.
Who's running this
Have a vote.
podcast? Jesus, fuck, Christ.
Yeah.
I want to say, Danny, we spoke to former Arizona Cardinal Joel Wilkinson yesterday, and he was saying how good the gloves are. And like Smith's one, he's got massive hands. So catching the ball one hand, they all practice it and they all do it these days. But running backwards and jumping over someone who's got a helmet on, we've got a bit of, crown jewels down there, which is still pretty well exposed when they're diving at you with a helmet. So give me Saquon Barkley jumping backwards over someone every day of the week.
Oh,
there
man.
you go, Charlie. That was my vote.
Well, I just wanted to go back to Sirianni. I think you've touched on something really interesting. How much trust do you have in Sirianni as a coach? Because last season felt like, after such a hot start, it felt like a massive failure of coaching, like just the way that fell apart. And to look at some of those decisions today, yeah, you might roll the dice more when you've shut out the Jags at halftime. You might play a little more fast and loose because it's just the Jags. You think you're on top of them. But it doesn't seem to have any cohesive sense to that decision-making. There isn't, you look at the aggressive decision-making of the Lions, and that is their brand. Campbell has had that decision-making like that since he took over that team. Sirianni, it doesn't feel that there's strategy or game management involved in many of those decisions.
No, and I think the thing that hurt us the most last season was losing your OC and DC, their head coaching jobs. Then you tried to promote people that were in-house, and it didn't work. And now we've gone out and, pulled others back in. And then I think that keeps Sirianni a little bit more in line. But yeah, like you're saying today, I think they just assumed they had the game in the bag, just like I did at halftime. And I saw him making the decisions. I was like, it didn't work the first time. Maybe they just get some points on the board. Like, I'd much rather a couple of, single point conversions and a field goal rather than just giving it all away for nothing. And it nearly did cost us in the end. So Sirianni's seat, I would say, is quite hot. Yes, we're on a winning season and we should make it to the playoffs. But if we're not making a deep run and potentially knocking on that door of that Super Bowl, someone's head's going to roll, and I'm going to assume it's Sirianni's.
Nice. It is a very a hot NFC East. I reckon, my opinion, it's down to two sides. We've got the Commanders who are playing the Steelers next week, which will be huge. Like we said, the number one run defense, whether they can adapt to that. You boys, Danny, you've got the Cowboys. 10 seconds from both of you. Are the Cowboys done for the season?
I was about to sarcastically say it's a brave man who writes off the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys are complete. Like, there's nothing about the Cowboys that suggests they've, A, got the horses on the paddock to get the job done, but B, that they've got the management, coaching, leadership to get there. And what was the story? Ezekiel Elliott didn't play.
I don't know why.
He's just kind of lost interest in the game, or lost interest in the team, or was missing team meetings, rocking up late, and so they sat him. Like, and this is a team that could easily have had Derrick Henry running for them instead of Ezekiel Elliott if they'd had some concept of a plan before the season started. I think they're absolutely done. I think they were done weeks ago.
I'll give you a 1 second answer. Yes.
Nice. Actually, you're right, Charlie, about having it. And even Jerry Jones, but he came out and said, I don't know if, which is so Jerry Jones-like, come out and said, I don't know if Derrick Henry would be playing the way he is if he was playing for my team, which you can't have. He's always does it. But having your owner come out and pretty much say, we've got a shit head coach, and I don't know if, the greatest running back of the last 15 years would be any good in my side is wild.
Yeah, it's also just, what does it say? It's like,
there's a lot.
I don't know if Derrick Henry would be performing well here. You've met me. I'm a nightmare. Like, it's
you'd be asking for money.
Why would you want to go to the Cowboys? Just whoever you are, why would you want to go?
Yeah, McCarthy will be gone at the end of the season, which I reckon Loz Haresh is going to be pretty happy about, Danny boy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We got some insider information from him about this week's game, and he was not too excited about his Cowboys. Let's just put it that way. But just quickly, I'm just going to jump back to the Commanders because I feel like I kind of brushed over them. They did beat the Giants, which was expected because the Giants also stink in this league. But they're 7-2. No one expected them to be there at this point in the season, and Dan Quinn's doing an amazing job. Jaden Daniels is still going out there and getting it done. Yes, he didn't have an amazing Hail Mary to finish this game, but still had a really good performance. And they are just, both sides of the ball, controlled, content, and just getting things done. It kills me to say this. I am a huge fan of this Commanders team because they're in the Eagles division, but I don't understand how you can't be. You're a rookie QB that's leading him to a 7-2 record at this point when no one was expecting him to do anything with the season. It was meant to be like a building. Like, let's get him out there, get him some reps, and let's just build on this. And maybe next year we'll have put a bit more of a dent in it. And at the moment, they're leading the division. Yeah,
I definitely deliberately washed over them because we have spoken about them a lot, and they only beat the Giants. So they are dominating though, which is good to see. And it keeps that NFC East real spicy because, like we said, the Cowboys are shit. I'll sit. You guys sit back. I'll talk about today's game. The dominant Detroit Lions beating my Packers in the wet at Lambeau. It was very. They kept saying monsoon weather. I don't reckon it was that bad. Like, it was just rainy. It was a normal Melbourne, Sunday, to be honest. But it was the Lions' first game outside of a dome, so that was their big test. Jared Goff wearing 2 gloves. Interesting. It's like playing golf with 2 gloves. It's just a bit weird. But he did, and it worked, because at one point he was 11 from 11. Didn't look like missing anyone like he has been the last few weeks. I think he finished 17 of 21 or something like that. Montgomery dominated us. He was getting chunk yards each time he ran. Jordan Love looked all right. We tried to bite off a bit more than we could chew each time we had the ball, it felt like. We started with the ball, and it was like an 8.5-minute drive, which ended in a field goal. I reckon that kind of kills you a little bit when you have such a long drive that gets stopped on the 10-yard line and you have to settle for 3. So just felt like we're on the back foot, and they were just getting chunk yards way too easy. Finishing the half with a pick 6 as well. Like, we were still in it. We're only maybe 6 points down or something, and then they got a field goal and then straight into a pick 6. It put them up by 2.5. And then the first drive of the second half, they scored as well. So we were 3 scores down and just never looked like being in it. They were so dominant. It was actually good to watch, even though it was my team getting absolutely pantsed. So I reckon they're definitely the best in the NFC, but they're knocking down the door of being the best in the NFL, Danny boy.
I've been so big on the Lions, and the fact that they dominated the Packers makes me so happy. Like,
Thank you.
It's a perfect, well, for us, Monday gift anyone could ever ask for. But once again, as you're saying, Goff coming out and having 100% completion for a massive chunk of the game. He is just so locked in, switched on, and just ready to pick apart anyone. And yeah, okay, he might have had 2 gloves on, but if it worked for him, it worked for him.
Nah, it's weird.
And he is also, you're watching this season, no one puts him on their list of top quarterbacks in the league. When they're tipping MVPs. No, but when they're tipping MVPs at the start of the season, no one's saying Jared Goff. But he stays in the pocket under pressure. He will take the hits, but he will also, he's got that passing accuracy even when there's pressure on him, even when there's a blitz. And he is, I think he's the perfect match for that team and the way that they work. And I just, it's interesting. It's like, I haven't spoken to a single NFL fan who isn't just really happy for their success. Normally if a team is doing well and that dominant, someone wants to hate on it. But everything about that story is great. And the team are likable and they play football that you want to watch. Obviously not if you're a Packers fan today, but
it wasn't it was good to watch, but not as good to watch. It was as an NFL and a podcast, it was good to be like, yeah, this team's going fucking well. So, but some news that's coming out.
I was just going to say, how's the Green Bay defense this year? Like, is Detroit running on them so easily a sign that there's something not right up front, or is that just how good their run game is?
No, I think it was. Look, our run defense is the best it's been in 10 years. We're probably mid-pack still run defense. Our pass defense is elite, but we had, I reckon, 2 or 3 starters out. Jair Alexander was out. One of our rookies, Wilson, he has absolutely lit it up. He was Defensive Player of the Week last week. He was out. So we were lacking a little bit, but it's no excuse. Branch, was it Brian Branch? He got ejected from the game, came through. They weren't happy with it, and Tom Brady was going in there going, no, it's just a hit. But he used the crown of his helmet into the face mask of one of our receivers as he was, trying to get a catch. Like, 100% he should have been thrown out, and he was. So there's no excuse because they were lacking. That was early in the second. They were just. I don't think our run defense is as bad as they made us look today. So they were just, their O-line was so good at moving us as well. There's the holes that I could run through, which is not saying much. They are looking at, so news whether by the time this comes out is confirmed or not. It looks like they're trading for Zadarius Smith from the Browns. Up in the air whether it is a good thing or not, because I personally believe, Charlie, that Zadarius probably on the way out, is on the back end of his career. He was playing with us 4 or 5 years ago. So he's just obviously a plug and play for Hutchinson. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're
obviously,
is making it much better.
obviously you'd want Garrett if you were taking the pick of the Browns to
Yes.
to get that that attack up front. It's interesting. I think he could be enough. Like he could be enough for what they need this season. Hutchinson is just such an incredibly large hole. Like he is just so insanely good and such a sack machine. I don't think that there's maybe one or two players that could play that level and teams aren't going to give them up. Maybe he does the job. I think you could make the argument Zadarius Smith is the best that's out there from teams that would want to sell at the moment. It may just be the best option they've got. And maybe that does keep it a little interesting that if Zadarius Smith is a little bit wobbly, maybe that keeps it a bit more competitive in the NFC.
It doesn't seem that they need the help though, Danny.
Well, there's a giant hole to fill. The giant hole that wasn't there until a really gruesome broken leg. But he has recorded 5 sacks this season through 8 games and a total of 27 tackles. If you can go out and get that and you think you don't need it, I'd take it.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move on to the game that we should be watching probably as people are listening. The 4-4 Bucks against the 7-0 Chiefs. The biggest thing that I saw out of this is the Chiefs are 9.5 point favourites. That is enormous. That is a touchdown and a half ahead, and no surprise, 64% of the money is on the Chiefs. Even at $1.23, Danny boy, the Bucks are banged up, and I reckon this is a chance for the 7-0 Chiefs to go in there and, well, is it a danger game for them? Because everyone is expecting them to go in there and win, and Baker Mayfield loves being the underdog.
Baker loves it, but the Chiefs are playing at Arrowhead. They're playing at home. They're 7-0. I said from the start of the season, this season means so much to Mahomes because he's going to go out there and potentially try and three-peat and do something that no one's ever done before. So then he can really etch his name in stone and up against all the greats. Like, he's already there, but this will cement him. I can't see them losing to this Bucs side. Not with how banged up they are. Yes, Baker Mayfield might go out and have an elite game. You still need people to throw to. You still need a defense that's healthy. And right now they've got neither of those.
Yeah,
Charlie, can you see an upset?
I think it could be. I think it could genuinely be close for a couple of reasons. I think the Bucs have surprised a lot of people this year. They do have injuries, but they have outplayed a lot of people's expectations this year, and they are better than everyone thinks they are. And the Chiefs, part of you just says, law of averages, they've got to lose one sometime. It's got to happen. Although I would say, they're 7-0. They haven't won pretty, but they've won. They still haven't figured their receiver room out yet, and they're 7-0. And last week, if you watched, Travis Kelce felt like he was starting to play into some form. He was more of a presence and more of that go-to target for Mahomes. And that didn't happen literally until the playoffs last year. So if that is starting to click, if Kelce is clicking into place, then I think it makes them pretty hard to stop. It really is that question of can the Bucs have their best game and can the Chiefs have their worst game?
And D-Hop only had his first game last week as well. So they've had multiple practices now, had the game. That is a great receiver for Mahomes to be able to throw to. Yes, he's had a quieter season to begin with, but now he's at the Chiefs. I can see him really ramping up as well. And Xavier Worthy is still incredible for a rookie. He's so quick.
He's growing.
Yeah. So, exactly what you're saying, Charlie, though. If the Chiefs can sort out this wide receiver room, who's going to stop them?
Yeah, if they get it going. Yeah, it's interesting. And that the other side of the ball, it's really the other side of the ball for the Chiefs. That's the reason that they're 7-0. Their defense has not skipped a beat. And they are, I think, the defense you don't want to come up against. The Steelers have been pretty consistent. Ravens have been pretty good. The Bills defense, when people are healthy, has been pretty competitive. But the Chiefs, they have a system that is very, very hard to play against. And Spags just schemes up specific game plans for teams better than anyone, in the way that Belichick used to. and there are very few that do it that well.
It sounds like you've been listening to the podcast while you were travelling, mate, because that's exactly what we said, that the Chiefs' defence is what's winning them games at the moment. And you've both come out and pretty much said, Danny boy, you were across it. We put this a multi together. Charlie, you weren't a part of the multi, but sounds like you were, because you've said exactly what you've agreed with what we've said. Just quickly, the multi is Hunt for a touchdown, who scored most weeks, Danny boy. DeAndre Hopkins over his yards, which is only 43.5. A week and a half, 2 weeks, practice and games. That is done. And Travis Kelce getting his shit together last week, having 10 catches. Probably should have had more, really. I think he dropped 1 or 2 pretty comfortable ones. His overs is only 5.5, so we're going to smash that. They've got their shit together. The Bucks are also their secondaries banged up and really struggling. So that's paying $6 on Bet365, and that's home and hose, Danny boy.
Yeah, when we built that earlier today, it actually kind of seemed relatively easy. Probably too easy.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with a Travis Kelce ladder, because I think he goes back-to-back weeks of 8, 9, 10 receptions. So, yeah. Quick one to finish. Charlie, who do you have? And, at the line.
Sorry?
Do you think the Bucks can win? Or do you think they can win with a 9.5 head start?
I think, actually, I think...
a lot of points.
Yeah, 9.5 is a lot. I think they can get within 9.5. So I'd say they would be that close.
So you're saying Chiefs win, but 9.5?
Chiefs win under 9.5, yeah.
Cheeky little multi,
Can
right?
you tell I don't gamble much?
Yeah.
Can you tell,
what's 9.5?
Yeah, just now I understand, yes. The
just
Bucks
nod and agree.
will not win, but will get closer than 9.5.
Nice. Danny?
I think 9.5 is just too big of a line. I don't know. I just wouldn't really ever feel comfortable taking it. I think Chiefs are going to get it done. I think they'll go 8-0. But 9.5 is just too much.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to say that the Chiefs are going to blow them out of the water, especially in, is it GEHA or GEHA Stadium, however they want to say it. 120-odd decibels louder than a jet plane in there when they get going. So I reckon they move the ball way too easily, and their defense just absolutely annihilates the Bucks. So I'd be looking at those overs, I reckon.
Well, here we go.
Yep. That's all I'm saying. All right, boys. Good work. Well done to your two teams. My team's got the bye next week, so we'll bounce back and beat that bye comfortably, I reckon. But enjoy the game, and we'll speak to you about week 10. Week 10. More than halfway through the season. We'll speak to you soon.
By. It really is.
Flying.
It's too quick. Really is.
Love it.
But
Love it.
Thanks for having me back, guys. It's lovely to be back.
We'll see you more regularly. How good's this?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the Bills war cry?
It's.
Yeah,
I guess you've got. There's hey, Bills make me want to shout. Which
You
I
can't be doing that. I say go back, go to finish.
Oh,
Danny
you say
says go Birds.
let's go Buffalo. Let's go
Okay.
Buffalo. It's just although globally, can I say this? I was at Disney World in Florida on game day wearing a Bills t-shirt, and the Bills Mafia was showing out at Disney World in Florida. So I guess go Bills is really, really all we say, which isn't that creative, but every single person was saying go Bills to me all day around the park. It was a beautiful day in the Magical Kingdom.
We'll sign off with that, eh? Go Bills.
Go Bills, guys.